You're crawling on your stomach through a passage barely wide enough for your shoulders, roughly 17,000 years ago, deep beneath what's now southern France. There's no natural light down here at all, hasn't been for hundreds of meters. Whoever's leading this group is carrying a small stone lamp, animal fat burning inside it, throwing just enough light to see the wall directly ahead. And painted on that wall, reached only after this long, dangerous crawl, is a horse. Not a crude scratch. A horse, rendered with real anatomical care, in a chamber almost nobody will ever see again. Why would anyone go through all this, just to paint something in a place practically designed to keep it hidden? That question sits at the heart of this video, and it's stranger than it first appears. Cave art wasn't decoration for daily life. Most of it wasn't even placed somewhere people regularly walked past. Sites like Lascaux and Chauvet in France required real physical effort just to access, let alone illuminate and paint inside. So this wasn't casual creative expression squeezed in during downtime. It was deliberate, difficult, and apparently important enough to justify serious risk. Figuring out why ancient humans did this tells us something about the origins of symbolic thought itself, the strange human habit of making meaning out of raw material, purely because we seem to need to. Start with ritual, because the location itself is the strongest clue we have. Archaeologist Jean Clots, who spent decades studying French cave art, has argued that many painted chambers show clear evidence of restricted, deliberate access. Narrow passages, difficult crawls, chambers requiring specialized knowledge just to reach safely. That's not the layout of a public gallery. It's closer to the layout of something sacred, reserved for specific people at specific moments, likely tied to initiation, hunting preparation, or ceremonies we can only partially reconstruct now. The depth and difficulty weren't an obstacle to the meaning. They were probably part of it, the effort itself functioning as a kind of filter, ensuring only those who mattered, or those ready for something, ever saw what was down there. Then there's the content, and this is where things get genuinely strategic rather than purely spiritual. The overwhelming majority of cave paintings depict animals, horses, bison, aurochs, deer, rendered with striking anatomical precision, sometimes showing motion in ways that suggest careful, repeated observation of these creatures in the wild. Researcher R. Dale Guthrie's extensive analysis of Ice Age art found that painted animals often matched the actual game species hunted in a given region and era with remarkable consistency. Some researchers argue this points towards sympathetic magic, a belief that depicting a successful hunt might somehow help ensure one. Others suggest something more practical. These images functioned as a form of instruction or rehearsal, embedding crucial anatomical and behavioral knowledge into a shared, memorable visual record long before anyone had written language to fall back on. Either way, the choice of subject wasn't random. It was locked onto exactly what these communities needed to understand and remember. Social cohesion did real work here too, and it's easy to underestimate just how much. Creating art collectively, and there's clear evidence multiple individuals contributed to many of these sites, based on differing hand sizes and painting styles found within the same chamber, reinforces shared identity and belonging in a way few other activities manage as efficiently. Psychologist Ellen Dissanayake has argued that art making likely evolved specifically as a bonding mechanism, functioning similarly to shared ritual or synchronized movement, both of which reliably strengthen group cohesion in measurable ways. A community that paints together, quite literally, may develop tighter, more durable social bonds, which, for a small band facing predators, food scarcity, and rival groups, wasn't a luxury. It was closer to functional infrastructure. None of this means we've actually cracked the full meaning behind cave art, and pretending otherwise would badly oversell what we know. Much of this remains genuinely speculative, pieced together from indirect evidence rather than any surviving explanation from the artists themselves. Some images may have carried purely personal significance, tied to an individual's specific experience or vision, with no larger communal meaning attached at all. Certain researchers argue we're projecting far too much modern, tidy symbolism onto marks that may have carried more varied, situational meaning than any single unifying theory can fully capture. Honest scholarship keeps returning to a version of "we don't fully know," and that admission is itself worth respecting rather than papering over. So what actually drove ancient humans deep into dangerous, lightless caves to paint? Likely some combination of ritual significance, practical knowledge transfer, and communal bonding, all operating simultaneously rather than any single, clean explanation. That horse painted deep beneath the French countryside wasn't idle decoration. It was a deliberate act, requiring real effort and real risk, carried out by people who clearly believed the image itself mattered enough to justify both. Which raises an odd, quietly humbling question. With every conceivable tool for expression now sitting in your pocket, do you make anything that requires anywhere near that level of effort or meaning? Something worth sitting with, the next time creating something feels like it's simply too much trouble. If this kind of dive into ancient symbolism and human behavior does something for you, subscribe to Before 1000. A new one drops every week.